Easy 3-0 here for Endpoint. We said before, the elimination bracket run starts now for them. Should be a 3-0 sweep. The question is, for me, if Zealous eSports can come along and surprise them in that game number one. I mean, I spoke about it, I think, both of the times I was on the desk earlier on in the day. Game one, probably the most important in this series. Sets the precedent going forward. And Empire Strongholds is, in my opinion, one of Endpoint's game types that isn't really suited to the players on that team, right? The playstyles, when you look at some of the players on that team, really don't complement that game type. Yeah. So if Zealous eSports are going to win a game in this series, which is possible they may do in game number one, it may be the most important one going forwards.
On set, let's find out if you agree by finding out your scoreline for this one.
3-0 Endpoint. I agree with what you're saying. If they're going to lose a game, it is going to be this game number one. But I think they have got better as the tournament's gone on. I think they know it's now their last chance. So they're just going to be, their communication's going to be on point. They're going to be stressing everything. They're not going to be underestimating this team they're going up against. So we're going to go 3-0 to Endpoint.
All right, you just going to stay with that 3-0, or are you leaning towards a 3-1?
Despite the thumb injury, which happens to the best of us.
Serious thumb injury.
I'm going to say 3-0 Endpoint.
All right, great predictions from these two. We are going to start this game, but before we do so, we've got another rec code coming up for you guys here as well. It's time. This one is Melted. Going in, so make sure you get in there, get that one before it disappears.
It's like Brycey every single matchmaking game.
Well, it's that. I'll be honest with you, I just thought it was relating to the fact that my brain melts after you guys just ramble on about all kinds of things.
Okay.
And I'm going to say thank you now and leave you literally, because I'm going over to the casters. I'll see you guys later. Let's go over and say hello to much more wonderful people, of course, Strong Side and Lethal.
What did you think about that code? It was a little bit better.
That was a little bit better, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, give me a lot of flack for these codes.
I have given you a lot of flack, but a lot of them have not been very good. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes someone let you loose with a little bit of creativity, and you went wild with it.
Wait for Sunday. Sunday's going to be the best day.
Sunday's always a good day, but now I'm dreading it a little bit. Could you have done better?
I'll be honest, probably not. I haven't really got much of an imagination, so.
It's not something you should have got no imagination, none at all. All right, let's get into this game here. One of these two teams is going home. Endpoint versus Zealous. Are you agreeing with our analysts?
You know, not just agreeing with the analysts, but also agreeing with some of the fans that I talked to before coming up here. They said they're feeling pretty confident Endpoint is going to take this 3-0, and even talking to Lethal a little bit before this, it sounds like Endpoint is going to probably take this very strongly in a quick manner.
All right. I'm going to leave you guys. Let's find out whether or not this one goes to a 3-0. Guys, take it away.
Thanks so much.
All right. Well, Lethal, also, we were talking about how you still play a bunch of Halo with not just Endpoint and Zealous, but a lot of the players that are here today still competing. You were a competitor back in the day yourself, so you're still gaming a little bit from time to time.
A little bit here and there, you know, but yeah, with Zealous eSports earlier, we did cast them as well, and we got members with Endpoint. This is 3/4 of the lineup back from the European Halo World Championships. So with 20 and Morga as well, these three did get fourth last time. The only difference is, instead of 57, we do have Septic, who's just come back into the scene after a little break. So no, we're going to see what difference this team has made in comparison. But with Zealous eSports, Ninja Risen is the sort of guy you want to watch out for that team.
Without a doubt. Well, we did talk to Mite earlier as well. He loves competing. First time competing at the event. This is the second time this squad is getting to compete on main stage with 3 players competing at their first event. It's Strongholds on Empire. Let's get right into the match. We're going to kick things off with Ninja Risen heading outside straight for this overshield. This is a 2v2 battle. He's going to immediately go down there. A lot of teamwork there from the side of Endpoint. I believe that's going to be Buck who is able to get the overshield, and then the camo goes into the hands of Morga.
Yeah, it looks like Zealous were just a little bit aggressive on that side outside. They could have just waited for a little bit, because I think at that time a couple of them did push through Turbo, but sadly, yeah, you're right, literally pushing way too much, but it looks like they're getting outside right off the bat, and it looks like they're going to get 2 points, possibly a trip cap straight away.
Yeah, getting control of all those power-ups early in the game is going to help you potentially go for that trip cap right off the bat, and that's indeed what is happening right now. Could we see a 100-0? We've only seen one prior throughout this entire day so far. You see on the other side, they're losing red base, so they're still holding 2, so not too much to worry about. They are picking up the slays, trying to keep up by 1 player at least. And nice little play here from Morga, just hanging back right here. What do you think about this kind of more defensive play style here from Endpoint? Is this something they normally like to do, or are they more of an aggressor?
No, they're not actually more aggressive. They're actually more methodical. They are the sort of team where they like to be defensive, like to be quite passive. But me personally, I'm not really much of a fan fan of a passive player. I'm always very aggressive in terms of how I do things, and that's how any team should be. But it looks like it's working for them. Against a team like this, once they're holding points, I don't think they're looking for that trip cap at the moment. I think they're looking just to hold 2 mid and the side base and just wait from there. But I think the only time they will go for that trip cap is when they get 3 or 4 dead on the Zealous side.
Yeah, and taking a look at the stat line here, 17 kills from Endpoint and only 6 kills from Zealous. So a major outslaying from Endpoint squad here. And they are just in control, getting another trip cap. They are going to be losing blue base, but still just padding on these points one after the other. They will get that reset, though, so able to keep that trip cap, and they are going to start now losing red base. So this is definitely kind of a back and forth little gameplay we have going on with them just going from red base back to blue base, constantly getting that reset back and forth. And look at this, going for the pit instead of going for one of the bases. They are very close to getting that. Is Zealous going to be able to get it? Yes, they do, and that's not something you see every day. Pit is usually the last one, or at least the second one that you're attempting to go for.
I was literally going to say the exact same thing. My first question was, why are they going for pit first? Out of all the places, considering how disadvantageous in terms of height, but it says that it worked for him anyway. That's a bit of sloppiness in terms of Endpoint, where they could have actually, you know, rushed straight down and actually stopped him. But I was very surprised when they got that pit. But it looks like now they did get a couple of points on the board, but it looks like now they're going to keep doing that. But by the look of things, Zealous is going to lose that point again.
Well, they're definitely not going to get goosed in points, so they are hanging on, but 53-4, and there is still a decent amount of time left in this game, so Zealous still just trying to fight to stay alive, but it looks like Endpoint is just outslaying them non-stop, 31 kills to 14 kills. Camo in the hands of Morga again. He's going to be running out of that in just a moment as well, so let's move over to Zud now. I haven't seen too much from him. See what he's going to be up to, but constantly both power-ups are going into the hands of Endpoint. If Zealous want to turn this around, they got to put a little bit more focus to those points on the map so they can get some control.
Absolutely. It looks like to me now they're kind of panicking and desperate a bit too much for kills, going in one by one single-handedly. Not really focus on the objective at the moment, as well as actually going for the power-ups. But when you know the opponent's got overshield and cover, it's not one of those kind of things you want on a map like this, especially on the strongholds. But if it was any game time, I would have thought Zealous would try their absolute best to see if they can make a difference on a game time like this. But right now, it seems like they're getting civilly outslayed by the Endpoint squad at the moment.
Well, let's take a look at the other side. I want to see what Might is up to. He talks about how much he loves competition, how much he loves competing, and the thrill of it. He's played sports all throughout his life. Played some football, played some tennis, and played some Halo all throughout that time, and now competing at his first tournament, competing in Halo. So that's actually going to be 3 down there for Zealous. Make that 4 down. Definitely struggling here trying to get the slays, but I mean, they're playing against a tough team, and like I said, this is 3 of their first tournaments, and you're playing against guys who've been playing Halo for probably more than 8 years.
Oh, easily, yeah. Like 20's been around for like over nearly a decade now, I think. And when you're playing against a team like that with so much experience on the board on the main stage, it's one of those situations where, you know, mentally it will hit you a little bit considering your opponents you're playing against at the moment. But the problem is now is the fact that now beforehand they weren't getting enough kills, but now they're going for the objective too much when it's 4v4 or sometimes a 3v4 situation. But as you can see now, they've got the overshield and now they're going to try and finish this up.
All right, Lethal, do you remember competing at your first tournament? Do you remember what it was like going to your first tournament and what you placed? You're smiling right now.
I won my first event, actually.
You won your first event?
It was the first EU tournament. So yeah, it's definitely 15 years. It's been a long time. It's been a while. But at my old age, I'll just barely be able to remember. So yeah, it looks like Endpoint seems to be a bit of a breeze for the moment. 104. Didn't surprise me in some way. But if you're getting slayed that hard, the score lines didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, all smiles around there for the Endpoint squad. Fighting back through the losers bracket run. After they lost to Supremacy earlier, I was asking them how they're feeling. They're like, not too good right now, not too good. And I was like, hey, you guys are still in the tournament. You should be feeling great. If you're getting knocked out, that's when you should maybe start feeling a little bit bad. But
absolutely, there
are so many times where teams have come back and made a wild losers bracket run. One in specific, Team Envious. We've seen them get knocked down to the losers bracket run very early in the tournament and make a comeback and win the tournament.
Yeah, because as you know, NVS have done it twice in the past. And with Zealous eSports, though, the problem is that they played a team who was actually worse than Endpoint and didn't do too great. But I would have thought because they've been on main stage once before, it'd be a bit more comfortable considering the situation. But sadly, it looks like it's their slaying power which is letting them down. But also, I think because they know exactly who they're playing against, they're kind of being a bit panicky, being a bit worried. And you can see from their damage dealt as well from Lex and Vortex, and also Ninja. Ninja is, I'm quite surprised with, because I see him as one of the main slayers. But even though he does do the least objective all the time, he does make it up for his slaying power. But it seems like right now it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum at the moment.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, that is Mighty on your screen, or excuse me, Might on your screen right there. Staying very composed and doesn't look flustered at all. He just looks like he's ready to get into the next game and keep these games going. And sometimes that's the greatest feeling. When you're at these tournaments, you may lose a match, but you're just here to play Halo. You want to keep the games going, and it's a great environment to just play and be able to meet a lot of the people that you've been gaming with online and meet the face behind the gamer tag. I remember when I was first going to tournaments, that was one of the most fun parts about going to these tournaments, meeting a lot of these friends that I've kind of grown to know through Xbox Live and get to talk to weeks and months and sometimes years. It had been since I'd met some of these people. So that's definitely a great experience getting to come to the events and meeting all these people and, yeah, just playing Halo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even back in the old days, it's literally, you know, when we're on our half a meg down connection on XBC and those kind of situations, normally we would LAN all the time, no matter what situation you was in. But nowadays, you know, even though there's a few less open LANs, it's more opportunity to actually meet each other, trying to qualify for these such huge events in comparison to so many years ago. But we need to remember is the fact that for a lot of these guys, it is their first event. A couple of them, it's their second event, but I spoke to Mighty in the past, and I did hear someone called Fable who has been trying to team in for the last 2 years, but keeps not coming to these events, as you know, if you're watching this. But yeah, it's like I said before, it's a great experience for these guys, but as well, with a few of them, it is their first event, but to be on main stage twice in one event, you know, you can't really say much about that, can you?
Yeah, definitely never going to forget this opportunity here. So you were talking a little bit about how you won your first tournament. I don't know anybody who has went to a tournament for the first time and won.
You placed highly at a few of your first events, didn't you?
My first tournament, we're not going to.
In A&E, was a little bit.
We're not going to talk about my first tournament. Maybe we could talk about my second tournament. I think it was like top 8. It was like 8th, 9th, maybe 7th, 8th, somewhere around there. But first tournament, I don't know if that first tournament ever happened. I like to pretend it never happened. But looking at the series layout here, Regret Slayer is going to be up next, and this is a very fast-paced game type. So we were talking about how Endpoint likes to play that slower, methodical play. Could this potentially be maybe where Zealous tries to take advantage of this game type?
Well, this is the thing. With the first 2 game types, especially this one, you've got to remember, Zealous need to tell themselves they've got nothing to lose, they've got nothing to worry about. And in this kind of situation, because, Endpoint are a slow, methodical team, Zealous needs to take advantage of that, be super aggressive. But with Endpoint taking up first overshield, and I think that's 4 dead straight off the bat. It's not looking too good already, straight away.
Yeah, definitely not the way you want to start out, but on the other side, that's the way you do want to start out for Endpoint. So an incredible start for them, getting all 4 down, and look at this, just trapping them in the base right off the spawn. You've got a player pushing into Blue 2, but Buck's going to go down. He'll get a trade, though, at least, and he's going to lose that caster, so that caster is going to be down over here, picking up the one shot here. Septic just flying in, so you can tell there's a lot of communication going on here with this Endpoint squad, just a lot more than we've seen when they were playing against Supremacy. You see them moving in pairs.
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite rare because, don't get me wrong, like, they are slow and methodical. It's not too bad against a team like this, but Endpoint, if they act like this, if I have another team like Excel and Fuse, you know, it's the worst bit about it is the fact that it won't work against these top teams. But don't get me wrong, it's working against a team like this because they're going single-handedly all the time. But they need to think about what they need to do for the future.
Well, right you are. Well, Zuh trying to finish off the kill here, not able to get it just yet. That player is going to sneak away, so he'll get cleaned up by Elixir, and that is going to slowly bring them back into the game. 7-5. Let's move over to Mighty. See what Mighty's up to. He's going to go down over to Ninja is Risen, fighting a player at top. Pink trying to stay alive. He's getting charged. Staying alive a little bit longer than I thought, though. Some shots were being missed, but it's still 6-10, so they're not too far behind. There's still a lot of time left in this game.
That was a great play as well, because as you know, the littlest things like that makes a huge impact in those kind of moments. And the amount of seconds, like 2 or 3 seconds he actually held them back, they actually gave Zealous a chance to have all 3 of them push around campsite and do some kind of flank. But it seems like just then that they were a bit hesitant. They were kind of worried about if they should push or not. And this is, you cannot play like this. You need to play super aggressive against Endpoint to have anything happen in this match.
Right, you are, Buck 20 trying to stay alive behind this little nub here at top car side. Just nades coming in, he's gonna sneak away, go down to bottom mid. That overshield will be coming up. He's gonna go down, and we might see the overshield go into the hands of Zealous. I believe that might have gotten picked up. No, it has not. May have gotten burned, so that second overshield is not going to be in play. It looks like that was burned. So we'll just stick on board here with Vortex. 11 to 18, taking it slow here. And you know, I'd really love to see the Zealous guys start to make these pushes in pairs. Every once in a while, you see them do it. There's these massive spurts where they have these great moments of charging and being the aggressor, and then it kind of shuts off for a moment. So you know they've got it in them.
Oh, definitely. Like it's just the inconsistency at the moment. You know, they show signs of life here and there, but I think they just have a bit more faith, a bit more confidence in themselves, and they should be able to make an impact. But with the veteran plays from 20, Septic, and Zermorga, it's quite hard to fight against anything like that. But if they're a slow, methodical team, and you know they're not that aggressive unless they really, really make a massive mistake, Zealous should capitalize on that.
Right, you are. Well, that's going to be 2 down for Endpoint. Buck will get the better hand there on Mighty. Buck fighting a 1v1 here against Vortex. He's going to get some help, but that will be both of them going down. Ninja is risen, will clean up Buck. Let's move on over to Septic. Septic, he's been a player who's kind of been around the scene, and not just around the EU scene. He's made his way over to the NA scene for quite some time, and he teamed with Ninja, he teamed with the Sudif twins. So he's got a lot of time kind of across the world here, not just with Halo 5, but multiple different Halo titles.
Oh, definitely. He's been around since the Battle of Europe, which was a few years ago. And ever since he's broken into the scene, he's always wants to make some sort of impact one way or another. And he did actually take a break and then realised about this event and decided to team with some other veteran players. Now, he also wants to prove himself, because as you remember from the Halo World Championships in Europe, he actually managed to get 4th place, but now Septic's got filling the boots of 57 right now.
Yeah, you can tell the confidence Septic has with his shot. Very smooth and very consistent. You know, he's just, once he's getting into some of these 1v1 battles, getting that perfect thrust backwards, getting that final shot. Look at that teamwork. Immediately turning around to finish off the kill there on Vortex. Getting a lot of help. Oh man, throwing the plasma grenade straight up. Is that going to do anything? I believe that might have hit somebody. You saw some hit ticks there. Might have just been from the frag grenade, but Septic's still alive, just running from one side of the map to the other, just back and forth, finally taken down.
I think there might have been someone top mid hiding behind some of the terrain, so I think he just heard and just thought, you know what, if I let that sticky come down, hopefully 10 seconds later, that same guy will still be there waiting around. But, you know, it doesn't seem to matter too much. I was going to say, Zealous are doing a great job right now. They've actually finally got map control after such a huge amount of time. But as I'm saying that, afterwards, 3 down straight away for Zealous.
Yeah, it looked like they just got sandwiched from every side. They were pushing towards that top middle, but instead of aggressing and pushing into one of the bases, they just stayed around top mid. So they allowed Endpoint to come in from blue and come in from red and just get stuck around that top middle point. Would have loved to see them make that push into the base and just flush them out.
Absolutely, but they need to do something. They need to get ready for this next overshield comes up in the next minute, and also do something with it. You can't just stand around and hesitate in any way. But you know, you can see from the Endpoints where they're double backing all the time, making sure they've got the disadvantage of height every single time. But the question is, I don't know why Zealous are pushing pink side every time. Don't get me wrong, I know there's only 2 carb side, but if you had like at least 3 of you just push around or somehow fork it in one way through top mid, they can make you, well, maybe make something of this.
Right, you are. Pink is a lot more open, and you don't have many. You've got sight lines, but you don't have much cover there. When you go over towards the car side, you've got a few little routes that you can take, and then maybe send someone around to top mid or one player over to towards that pink side. But just looking at Endpoint, they're running around bottom mid, they're running around top mid, in very open spots, and that's actually going to be 3 down there for Endpoint. I believe that overshield will go into the hands of Septic as well. So although they did go down, that last player on Endpoint was able to pick up the overshield. So definitely when you talk about timing power-ups, that's one of those missed calls right there on the side of Zealous.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. If Zealous was playing mid-ship or something, and they were getting P2 maybe time, things kind of maybe turned around a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of a score we expected, but they did show some life, which is great because of the fact that, you know, I do understand they're inconsistent, and it's kind of those sort of situations where you will be, especially on the main stage when you get a few of them with only 1 event under their belt. But yeah, as you can see here, you've got Ninja Risen, who does have 9 kills, but Septic, straight off the bat, did really well. 13 has contributed to 29 different kills, which is absolutely remarkable by him.
Yeah, a lot of assists to add on top of that. But even on the other side, take a look at Mighty. 9 kills, 12 assists. And let's take a look at the damage dealt here. Damage dealt, take a look at Mighty as well, over 2,000. The only one on his team that was able to break 2,000. But interestingly enough, look at the other side. You got Endpoint with 3 players over 2,000 damage, and Za with only about 1,100 damage. That's a big difference.
Someone needs to tell him the oxygen isn't a target. But yeah, it's just crazy. Why he had 1,100 shots? Maybe because of the fact that the other 3 were so aggressive in certain situations where he was probably holding a lot of the spawns. Maybe he's trying to figure out what he was doing in his head rather than his teammates. Because, you know, damage dealt, as you remember from Halo 2 as well, it kind of shows exactly how you are as a player in terms of movement, shows where you are in the action all the time. And for me personally, I'd always focus on damage dealt. If mine was always quite low or mediocre, I would have a look on the replays and see exactly what I've done wrong in terms of movement. But maybe he just wasn't feeling it that game. Maybe he just thought, you know what, I'll give him a little bit of a chance and see how it goes. But, you know, they got the job done anyway. Yeah,
without a doubt. And then on top of that, not just the damage dealt, you saw that damage accuracy there from Morga and Buck20, both over 60%. So their shots are...
Absolutely. Like, for me, accuracy sometimes means something, sometimes it doesn't, because I'm one of those people who spams a lot in a certain place, depending on if he actually poked back out or not. But yeah, Morga was even saying that, like, he's got a problem with one of his fingers. But I think from those accuracy and those stats, I think that might have been a little bit an excuse in case he played badly. But no, to be fair, Morga's definitely one of the strongest in this team. And with Zer as well, he is one of those players where when it comes to morale, anything like that, he's very momentum-based. I've teamed with him before, one of my final events. And he is one of those guys where literally, if you team with him and you need someone to step up, he will be the man to actually get the job done.
Yeah, and over in the NA scene, it's not very often you see too many players getting over 60% accuracy. I mean, I think Contra is one of the few players, and sometimes you'll see a Frosty and Shotzi. There's a handful of players that kind of consistently hit over 60%. It's not something very easy to do. I mean, you got to be on point every single game, playing at the highest level at all times, and that's something that can be very strenuous on some of the players, and it takes a lot out of you to constantly be at that peak level of performance. So definitely nice to see some of the EU guys really hitting over that 60 percentile.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I'm lucky to... I think I've got to an age now where I'm lucky to hit past 50%, let alone 60 or anything like that. But yeah, you're right. You know, players like Shotzi, I've seen him have 74% accuracy and stuff like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. One of the rising stars in his team. But also, what you need to remember is that he might have some rising stars in this team as well in the future, especially someone like Ninja who's risen, who's shown up a few times today.
All right, well, taking a look at the series layout here, you've got Game 1 and Game number 2 going in favor of Endpoint. Game number 3 is going to be Coliseum, capture the flag. This could be a very quick one. We've seen games end in less than 2 minutes across EU and NA competitive Halo. What are you thinking?
I think Endpoint will win. Well, not I think. I probably know, but depending on how quick it is, we'll see if records will be broken. But, you know, hopefully Zez will put up a better fight compared to the first 2 game types we saw before.
All right, well, Vortex is looking to get his hands on that sniper rifle. Nades are flying in, though. They're going to take him down to 1 shot, so he's got to retreat. That sniper will be picked up by the other side. Za is going to pick that up, but it looks like he's going to go down. You'll see that in the kill feed. So that sniper is still up for play. The ground pound from Morga coming in from downtown. I mean, you saw that Vortex. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Morga's just hang timing in the air. Not much you can do in that position.
Yeah, when you're in that situation, you just look up and think, yeah, that's me done. But yeah, it looks like at the moment, they do have sniper control, but they need to make sure if they do cap this flag and actually get a pull in it, they need to make sure not to lose snipe tag. So a lot of the top teams in the EU, what they do is, when they actually grab the flag and cap it, but don't leave someone at snipe to try and hold anyone back and try and put him in open side. So hopefully, when they do cap this, they keep control of the snipe side and carry on from there.
Za already back into the base. Very quick flag run in almost less than a minute, about 1 minute and 2 seconds, but he does have the rockets as well. Nice to see him running that flag with the rockets. Sometimes we'll see players not really want to go for that objective once they have a power up, but if you're in that spot, if you're in the position and you're the guy that needs to get that flag, you've got to be able to go for that flag and make that move. Look at this. You've got the second flag already going as well. That's going to be Morga. He's got the sniper as well. Talk about another player running the flag with a power weapon. I believe Zuz trying to get some cover on that. That flag is still alive. That's going to be 1 down. Make that 2 down for Zealous. Buck is going to fall, and it looks like that flag may be getting returned here in just a second. Elite Vortex with the sniper. Let's jump over to him. He's trying to get his eyes there on that flag. He's able to pick up the double kill. He's got his eyes on the third player as well. No teammate is able to get that return, though. He's just constantly there. You see another Red X go down. So Vortex just trying to do everything that he can, but he can only do so much after picking up a double kill.
Yeah, Vortex, like, he didn't have a great showing last game, but this one's completely different. He was really getting in the swing of things at the start, but sadly, it has got to a point where he was literally the only one on open side, and the rest of his team should have took back snipe control and at least pulled out, but it seems like it didn't make any difference there at all. And now they're pulling the third flag, and I don't think anyone's called out, but Septic's behind him with the rockets, trying to stop him from actually capping a flag, but this could be a third cap if Septic continues killing everyone in bottom mid.
Well, you've got Za getting ready to get the flag grab. It's right behind him. Does know a player is nearby, so he's just going to get a touch. That rocket comes in. He'll be taken down. You've got Buck flying in right now. That flag looks like it may get returned, and it does. Big plays there from Zealous to keep that flag back at home base. So it's still a good amount of time, but I mean, Endpoint is not showing any mercy. Flying across the map, Buck 20, bridge to bridge. You don't see that move too often in high-level competitive Halo, so they are just constantly on the move. They are playing a lot more aggressive than we've seen.
Absolutely. 20, I always call him the aggressive Buck because of the fact that between the two, I always see 57 playing support in any way possible, and 20 is always the one who's in their face constantly all the time. And I think if Zealous want to have any way of coming back, they need to get this Night Tower back. There's only seems to be one, sometimes two, if you're lucky, single-handedly trying to get it back. But when you've got plays like this, where they're trying to keep on constantly, then it's not really making much of a difference. So you can see here, they're trying to get Night Tower control, but finally they do after such a large amount of time. And Zealous could potentially get a flag cap here.
Yeah, let's see if they're going to be able to make this move over to Ninja as Risen. He's got the sniper. See if he can give some backup here. He's going to go down immediately, though. You've got Might also trying to give some cover, staying alive, getting pegged by grenades. That's going to be another player down for Zealous. Make that 3 players down for Zealous, and Might just staying alive, doing everything he can. But look at this. Over on the other side, you've got Septic, Buck, Morga, and Za all moving in. But Morga with the sniper. You know, we haven't really heard too much from the Endpoint squad here in this series. I'd love to jump to a listen in, so let's hear what the communication is like on Endpoint.
We got this team, Pete. You got a rocket?
Go finish this game, boys.
Yeah,
Alright, let's finish it. Let's
yeah,
finish it.
Window, guys. I window 2-shot. Window still.
Fucking hell, man.
Oh, middle weak.
Flags, they might run it.
Oh, he's dead, he's dead.
Running window.
I just got raised. Let's run it.
Top cat as well.
He's in top cat.
Oh yeah, let's just end the game. One shot BR.
Hey, let's fucking try now. Okay, that's alright. It's gotta be our.
One shot touch.
Gotta get a BR.
I'm gonna be away in there. I'm gonna rockets.
One shot me, guys.
Go on.
Now get the maze again.
It's got weak. Let's go
He's got rockets out, BR.
I got any help here, lads. Window weak. One should the podium. That's the podium. Can we go over here?
Teacher, found a teacher. One more 3.
Alright, let's finish it now.
One shot. Weak there, BR. I'm taking these sunglasses off, boys. Alright. Let's get serious now.
I want her.
See that side? On that side, that's one.
There BR.
One shot on flag, the fountain.
Okay,
Vortex. Okay, come on.
Can't see him.
We can't even
Maze,
end it.
absolutely.
Just get a maze. Run it, Mark. Just run it.
All right, there you heard it. They want to end it. You constantly hear them saying, let's end it. But Zealous is hanging on by a thread. They are not letting them get into this base here. So Endpoint struggling to get this last flag cap and close out the game. And Zealous just, they are wanting to survive and wanting this series to keep going. I love this spirit here. You gotta love it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I swear I heard one of them actually say I need to take my sunglasses off, but I don't see how it make any difference at all. But as you can see now, they literally need a home base now, and literally it's going to be capping any second now.
Looks like that might be it there. You've got Septic grabbing the flag. He's thrusting back, and that is going to do it. Endpoint closing out the series 3-0, ending game 3, 3-0. Exactly kind of what not just us, some of the fans and even the analysts were expecting as well. But you got to give a shout out to Zealous. All 4 players, but the 3 players that it's their first tournament, you got to give them a shout out, a good pat on the back, because they definitely played very well, and they've got some stuff to go back and definitely watch themselves play on main stage, and they can easily learn from that stuff. That's the greatest thing about playing on main stage. I say it time and time again. You can just go back, to the hotel room, go back later on, weeks later, and check out and see what you were doing. Watch when your POV was on camera and see those little intricacies, maybe a little mistake you did, or even something that you did right, so you can remember to constantly make those type of moves for your squad.
Absolutely. Like, when it comes to trial and error, you need to trial error in every situation you possibly can. And it's like I said before, Zealous, it's very rare at this stage you get 2 main stage matches at this kind of snipe. But the problem is, at the third game, at least they made some kind of comeback, some kind of, you know, consistency. But sadly, it was just too much for them.
Well, take a look at the stats here. A decent amount of slays from both sides. 44 kills, excuse me, from Endpoint, and 43 there from Zealous. So slays-wise, about even. And take a look at Vortex, 17 kills. Let's take a look at the damage dealt here. 2,502 damage. He was on fire this match here.
It was that start with the snipe, wasn't it? Literally, on the open side, he was really feeling it and really wanted to try and make a difference compared to how he was actually doing in the other previous games. Because Vortex, we didn't really see much of him in the first game, especially the second game. He had a little bit of a low side to him in terms of his kill camp and his stats, but he really showed what he could do in that final game, which was a shame. I think it was a little bit too late into the series. Maybe he played like that in game 1 with a bit more consistency. It could have made an impact maybe, but sadly, it was just still too late.
Yeah, but guys on Zealous, big pat on the back. Congratulations on making it this far and playing against some tough teams along that road. I mean, that was no easy journey. But that's going to be it from us here on the desk. Brycey, back to you.
Thank you very much. All right, well, Zealous do get a pat on the back as well as a shove out of the door as they are out of this tournament.
Pat on the shoulder.
Pat on the shoulder. And then a shove out the door.
Yep. Immediately.
All right, Endpoint, continue on.
Hater. He's drinking hater.
I'm actually going to take this now. Let's go straight into the maps. I don't want to hear anything else, but let's go straight into these. Let's talk about the first map.
Yeah, Empire Strongholds. It was Endpoint, again, slaying out. We've spoken about it so much. If you're playing a Strongholds game type and you are the dominant Slayer team, you get the more kills on the map, more than likely you are going to be winning the game in the end, because the other team's coming off the respawn. When they're on the respawn screen, they can't be capturing the Strongholds, and that's exactly what happened. Endpoint getting the majority of the power-ups in the game, their coach obviously coming into play in that one. And yeah, the thumb injury we saw in that series from Morga really not coming into play so much. I mean, he still was looking like a pretty hot commodity in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, especially in a Strongholds game type. If you're picking up slays and you get a 3 or 4 dead, you have such an opportunity to rack up points because you're going to know exactly where the other team are going to be spawning. You can then control the map, just keep them pinned in and just keep racking up points. So you have to give credit to Endpoint for how they played that one. I mean, it was a fairly convincing victory. And I don't think there's too much more to really add on that one, if I'm honest. It was just outslay your opponents, control the map, and just win the game.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up very nicely. All right, let's move on then. Map number 2. Let's talk about that one. Start with you again, Harry.
Oh, thanks. Regret Slayer is another one of those game types where if you get the slays, you're going to win the game, because it's not only because it's, I mean, it's fine. I'm trying to ignore it, but he's over there drinking haterade. It's fine. It's one of those game types where it sounds silly, where if you say, oh, you get the slays on Slayer, you're going to win the game. Obviously, that's the objective of the game, but getting slays in waves on Regret is so important because you can trap the enemy team in a base and really allow them to just be pincered in a base, you know? When you get top middle control and you stop them getting out and you stop pinning them in bases, you can get waves and waves of slays just from that first initial wave of slays. So that was something that Endpoint did very, very well. Again, controlling that overshield was a key point in this one, and they came out with the win on Regret.
Ante, anything to add to that?
Again, it's a difficult one to break down because they just outplayed their opponents. They got initial 3 or 4 dead off the start. They got the first overshield, and then from then, they did have that spawn rotation. And Regret's such a stifling map because you have height control in the middle of the map. So anyone who's coming off the respawn is going to be fighting against a height disadvantage. So it's more difficult to hit those shots. Then you're going to be back in the respawn. If you lose one battle, you're in a 3v4. You're respawning the other side of the map at a height disadvantage. So it's very difficult. The only way to kind of get back is to grab one of the power-ups, the overshield. It's difficult to do that. Again, if you're getting 1 or 2 dead every time, when you go down for that overshield, you're going to be in a 2v4, 2v3 battle. So unfortunately, you just have to give credit to the slaying power of Endpoint, especially the amount of perfect kills we saw even in that clip. If you're playing against a team who are hitting all their shots, there's not much you can do sometimes.
No, it was Endpoint kind of steamrolling on. And speaking of that, let's go on to the final map in our sequence. Capture the flag.
Yes.
And this was a 3-0, but for a little while it looked like Zealous were just holding on by the fingertips, right until the sunglasses came off.
Yeah, right until the sunglasses came off. We heard Septic during the listening, which, by the way, was my favourite part of the entire series. He said, I'm going to take these sunglasses off, boys. Come on, let's finish this. And it seemed to me
I
like...
just heard Rob laughing backstage.
I think he's going to be watching that one back tonight, back at the hotel room, just to hear the listening. But it was one of my favourite parts of the entire series, because you just heard how laid back they were. They knew they were never in doubt, never in threat of losing the series, and that's the kind of confidence they're going to need going through the elimination bracket. An elimination bracket run, most of these players have done it before. We speak about the pacemaking Pandas back at Wembley. There's the majority of that team right here on this team, but you do need to be confident and almost jovial when you are taking out some of these teams that you are expected to win against in the elimination bracket to start formulating that run.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, I just want to say congratulations to their opponents. They put up a good fight, you know, as Side said on the caster's desk, some of their first events. So to get up here on the main stage and play, you know, up to standard, get the opportunity to play against all these players. We hope they come back to the next event because we'll be glad to have them.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also, you know, if you're going to end up at this stage, facing down Endpoint, it's something you don't want to do. They ended up losing to Supremacy earlier. Do you think that there was any improvement in your mind that maybe if they replayed Supremacy, it'd be a bit of a different story? Or is it just because Zealous are not the same caliber team?
I think it's probably the latter. I still think Supremacy outclasses Endpoint more often than not. I actually have Supremacy placing 4th of this event, outplacing Endpoint. So I think if you've replayed the series, even after what I've just seen, I still think Supremacy comes out with the win in that one. I actually predicted them to win that one in 3, and they did. But the rematch I would like to see is tomorrow.
Okay.
If they're going to play them again, play them on a different day. I mean, you have to catch Supremacy off on a pretty bad day, in my opinion, to get the win right there if you're Endpoint, because I just think Supremacy have been a team for too long. Fair enough, they've made a change, but I think they've been a team for too long, and the amount of practice they've put in will be a massive factor in a rematch if it were to happen.
I completely agree with that one. All right, that kind of wraps up our map here on main stage. However, all is not done, all is not finished. We're going to now throw it down to Lottie, who is in the pit for an update.
Welcome back to the pit. Now, we've got still some really good games coming up this evening, and despite having played all day, the energy here is still super high. Well, let's have a quick update of the scores. So, Mustard Volcano played Evolved eSports to take that 3-2, who are now playing Barrage. That hasn't quite started yet, but that is to come. Then we've got Invalid eSports against Radiant, who've just started, and Radiant have already taken that first series. And then Underworld eSports, Revolt Gaming are still yet to play. So it's all to play for here in the pit. But that is all from me today, and I will be catching you guys tomorrow for fresh updates and fresh scores. Back up to you, Bryce.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lottie.
Hey, well, thank you very much. That gave us the update. However, also broke my heart a little bit. Mustard Volcano has gone out.
Sad times.
Sad times.
Everyone has to go home at some point.
Press F to pay respects.
But there we go. I think it's time now to talk about who we think is going to win this. Have we seen anything today to change our minds? I don't know if we have.
No. I mean, we haven't seen XL play on stream, so...
That's a good point, actually.
That's one of the teams I expect to rival Infuse. I think Infuse is still everyone's favourite to win in